I'm going to read a few poems from This Intimate War, Gallipoli, Trinakili, 1915. It's very hard to choose the poems to read because the book is bilingual and it's a narrative, the whole book. So it tells the story of the soldiers, but also of the nurses, the doctors, the families, the child soldiers, of which there were many, sadly, and I'm talking about 12-year-olds from every country. The painters, musicians, poets who died. So it's an intimate story about war, and it finishes on a friendship between myself and a Turkish woman around red poppies. So I won't read all of them, but I thought I'd select a couple, maybe three. The first one is Close. In the war, there was a pause requested by the Ottomans to bury the dead, all of the dead. After one of the battles, there were 6,000 or 7,000 dead men lying around for 3 days, and it was unbearable. So this was granted. They asked again later in the war, and it was not granted. And I think this poem tells the story of why. Because once you are that close to your enemy, it's very hard to go back to killing them. You see people as humans. You start to see them as yourself. It begins with an epigraph from the great Turkish poet Mehmet Akif Ersoy. Who can dig a sepulchre great enough for you? History itself, say I, cannot contain you. Close. Close in every sense. Air humid and heavy in March, freezing and snowbound in November, trenches stained red, oozing water, then flooding with bodies washed to the sea, but nothing to drink. I'm so dry. A sea, once vivid blue, now claret mud, its crust of white in the wind, scarlet. No use when my body, lice-ridden, can barely crawl for hunger, not swim, and the thirst. We can't drink it. Close. The enemy trenches, feet away, rattling bullets, or worse, the steel, upward lunge of a bayonet driven home, jugular spurt, no need for medics if they could be found. We throw notes over a sandbag that separates our ditches. One said, "You are too weak to advance, too strong to retire, and we are the same, so what shall we do about it?" I can smell his cigarette in the dark as if we have rest periods to breathe. I can smell the squelchy corpses, our shared dead. Briefly, a white singlet on bayonet tip rises. Stepping out to look into our eyes, that's when we know them. Suddenly, smooth hands, voices, smiles. They are boys like us, young. After we go back into our holes, it's harder now. Close up, I see him carrying his wounded enemy, lifting him gently, laying him down carefully for us to collect. And he will probably be shot returning, and our soldier die anyway, and still he does it, because bravery isn't to do with this, but with finding himself in some small act, some care. Another note lands. If you don't surrender in 24 hours, we will. We have humour, at least. We can hear them laugh sometimes, weep others, call to us at night. We don't know the language, but we know song when we hear it, the sound of a joke. Their songs break your heart open. You can hear home in them. One of us far away from home, the other not close enough. Close is what I remember of my son, 5, his smell, my wife leaning from bed for her slippers, her dark hair a lost photo. Now I know him in the trenches best. His ribs thin like mine, his bandaged foot, that cough at night, the black, sleepless shape of his death. We all know each other, both sides. We know our towns, our cities, our families. We share our breath here, sometimes our sad food, inedible bully beef, grapes, tomatoes, hard biscuits, fresh bread. They killed my friend, relieving himself at dawn, blew him to pieces, and he fell on us all like rain. Close, I love him now, my enemy. I know him. Like me, he can't understand the way of it, the charging out, the sure death, the way they tell us and we do it. I feel his tremble at the boom of cannon, the sniper's zip. He knows death is here for us, no other way. Line after line of us, both sides, one defending the place he loves, the other knowing it. They don't want us killed. We'd all be lonely here. We have no boundaries anymore. We are killing ourselves in this intimate war.